Are you considering going to college? Do you feel left behind because you just don't have one of these amazing college university degrees? Well, you're in luck because today's episode, we're going to be talking about should you go to college? This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy?
Hey, Danny, you went to college, right?
I spent a lot of time in college. Yeah. And then I
Yeah.
taught in college for 15 years. So I just stayed there for a while.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you've been there for a while.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
You've
we're
gone to
giving
college a
we're
couple times too, haven't you?
Dude, I got the undergrad, they got the bachelor's, got the doctorate, now working on a master's. I'm just collecting the Holy
Did
Trinity.
all of them, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting for people listening because we might give you quite a shocking answer as opposed to what you might think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
nowadays I don't know. It's like it's funny because I think, times have just shifted a lot. They say I was looking at statistics, this was a little while ago, so I'm sure the numbers have probably gone up, but like I think it was like I want to say around like 2018 they did a study and it was 69% of high school seniors that graduate go directly to college the next year, which if you think about that is an insane number. Like it used to be, that like, well, if you go, depending on how far back you go, like if you go back to the 50s and whatever 60s, it was like very small numbers, like less than 10%. Then it got a little bit higher, but now it's like expected. And it's like the only option given to high schoolers about what they can do. So it seems like that's the only path. But I think the degree's been devalued. It costs a million times more than it ever costed before. It's like insanely expensive. And there's way more options out there than people normally think, and they don't realize it. So I think, the degree's been devalued a lot over the years.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. I made the mistake of I didn't even know there was another option. Like I
I
went
didn't either.
my whole childhood, it was just like drilled into my head. Go to school, get good grades, go to good college, get good grades, get a good job, and then you'll be set for life.
And if you didn't go to
And
college, you were viewed as a failure, right? Even community
yeah,
college was viewed as failing in some sense. It was crazy. Like,
yeah. And dude, totally. You had to go to like a name brand university. You couldn't go to a community college. And
yeah,
the crazy thing is, it's built on a premise that was true 50 years ago.
yeah,
That's no longer true. Because the last part of it, go to school, get good grades, go to college, get good grades, get a good job. That last part of it is not connected.
no,
It's not like go to school plus get good grades equals good job. It's go
no.
to school plus good grades equals a lot of college debt and regret.
Yeah, yeah, basically. Well, I think the problem is too, like the cost went up, the degree didn't went down in value. The educational value didn't change. And the parents and people who were telling us to go when they were younger, that was true, but it just wasn't anymore. And I think this is the problem. Like, we're not like up with the times and the information that we're providing to people. We're providing them information about what was true when we were younger, but not like actually was true now.
Mm-hmm. So like we've just had an experience recently where we did coding boot camp. And here's the crazy thing is that how often everybody listening, how often do you spend on your phone, on your computer? Is the answer anything other than all day, every day? Well,
Constantly.
everything that you interact with has to be built by somebody. So
Yeah.
the jobs for skilled programmers are just like never ending. And it's
Yeah.
something that's never going to end. And so, and this is something that you can teach yourself for free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
As
at most
opposed
you
to,
can, or
yeah.
even like those boot camps, or like, there's boot camps out there, or there's certificate programs that you can get that are totally respected by the field and cost like nothing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing another one now that's on Coursera I was telling you about. That's like 39 bucks a month.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how long it takes, it'll cost me maybe a couple $100. Like it's not bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you can go on YouTube, watch stuff, do projects on there. And it's crazy because you can spend next to nothing for your education and then get a really high paying job.
Yeah. The crazy thing too is like I think even now, like there are cases where like going to college can be helpful. There's still some degrees I think that it can be beneficial to go, and there's still like graduate programs that are still valuable to an extent. But I think the other problem is when you go out of high school, you don't know what you want to do, and like you
Mm-hmm.
haven't tried enough things. Like I think it would make more sense, honestly, for a kid coming out of high school to do some online programs that are free or that cost like a minimal amount, gain some skills, gain some knowledge about the information that's out there, and then decide what they want to. Because then you'll have more experience like talking to people in those fields. You can kind of get a sense of like whether it's for you, you know?
Dude, 100%. Like kids in high school have generally have like zero life experience. They have no idea what they want. So
No
actually
clue.
getting life experience, trying a whole bunch of stuff, recognizing what you don't like. But then I think it's also important. You mentioned like there are some things you need to go to college for. I think we should list those because you can list them like on your hand. Like
Yeah.
if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to do research, uh, what else is there?
If you want to be a doctor, lawyer, research, I guess it's mostly if you, yeah, if you want to be a scientist of some sort, you're going to need to
Mhm.
go. That's just going to
Yeah.
be the case because you have to get that foundational knowledge and you got to get to know the research and get in the network. Basically, that's it. Trying to think
Everything
of anything
else,
else.
you don't need to go. Get an MBA? No. Learn business on your own. You spend a lot less money, you get real life experience. Learn computer programming? No. You can teach yourself, you get real world experience. You get like literally everything. If you go and do it in the real world, you will get so much better experience because my experience in college is they teach you a ton of theory. So you know everything in theory, and then you get out there in the real world, and it's nothing like what you
You have no
learned, and
practical
you know
skills.
nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what the funny thing is? Like, if you wanted to get into business or like even to some extent like finance, just take a little bit of a loan out and practice on your own. It'll still be cheaper than college.
Mm-hmm.
Start a business, start a small business. Try that out. See how it works for you. Like do
Dude,
stuff like that.
there was a book called The Personal MBA, which was basically said that exact thing. Because at the time that he wrote it, MBA programs on average were like $40,000 a year. Now they're probably more. And
Probably
he
50.
was like, you could do so much, like you could learn so much for that amount of money compared with what are you going to do? Learn some like trade studies in MBA school. Yeah.
Well, let's be honest too. What's going to happen in college is because I mean, I teach it, I know. And like most of these classes, you're going to get assigned stuff that you're not going to read. You're going to basically do stuff at the last minute. It's like, are you really committed to learning anyway? Because this is the other problem with college is like, it's as valuable as you make it.
Mhm.
And most people just want to get through it. They're not really getting the full value. I mean, that's true of everything, right? And like,
Yeah.
if you don't really need it, like, what's the point? It's funny too, because like these programs, dude, I was talking to somebody the other day and found out that like some of these schools, like I think it might have been Stanford or something, they're like getting up to like 80 grand a year. Think about that.
That's
That's
absurd.
that's 300 and what? What is that? God, I can't do math right now. 320 grand a year or for the 4 year degree. That's insane. And then you have, and the other thing they don't tell you, and I didn't realize this when I was younger either, because they call it financial aid. The interest starts right away the second you take out the loan. So by the time you graduate, you have 4 years of interest already tacked on, which it's like crazy.
Hmm.
I love
Yeah.
how they call it aid. It always crack me up. It's like a loan. Just call it a
Dude,
fucking
it's
loan.
one of the biggest sources of income for the government,
I know.
aside
Oh
from
God.
taxes,
It's so
student aid,
frustrating too,
student
because
aid.
it's like,
And yeah, and they do it to kids who don't know anything about money.
yeah.
Like what kids actually know about money in high school?
Well,
None.
here's the thing, we're not taught about money. And at the same time, I'm sure this is still happening because it happened to us. Like everybody's telling you that this is the only path that's valuable. There's also, I mean, people also forget there's tons of jobs that are in demand trade jobs that people aren't going to because they've been going to college and college is pushed so hard that there's a lot of money to be made in. Starting your own business as a plumber, as an electrician, as whatever, getting those unions, those are good jobs. But people aren't going in on that route because they view it as, less than, or it's like not having the status of the degree when the degree just doesn't matter anymore.
Hmm. So here's another thing because a lot of people are going to say, "But I need the degree. Like I needed blah blah blah. I need a degree." Okay, fine. If you need a degree, here's what I have done recently that works really well. I found all of the schools that offered the program I was looking for and ranked them from least expensive to most expensive, and then start applying in that order. And the first one that
Nice.
accepted me, I went there. And apply for every scholarship you possibly can because most people
Yeah.
don't apply for scholarships. Most people think, oh, I'll never qualify for it. Somebody else probably already got it. If everybody's thinking that, that means nobody's applying for
And
scholarships.
there's a
So
million of
it's free
scholarships out
money.
there because it's
Yeah,
so expensive. Yeah. Yeah, that's a
free
good
money on
point.
the table. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the other thing that I didn't do because I was, had no information about it. But I think that's the other side of it too, is like think this decision through carefully. be selective, make sure you really want to do it, and make sure because I think the biggest saddest thing I see too a lot is like, and I've seen over the years is kids that go to colleges don't even want to be there because their parents want them to go. They're not even doing that well. They're not engaged at all, and it's like you're just pissing away so much money, and you're building all this debt for what? You don't even want to be there. Like, make the
Yep.
decision yourself. Think it
Dude,
through. Figure out what you
seriously,
want.
if you're not getting straight A's and if you're not learning something or if you're not getting straight A's or if you're not learning something that you're deeply passionate about, just drop out. Like
Yeah.
save yourself a lot of effort and regret. Yeah.
And you can always start. I think the other option too now is like you can always start at community college, which is way cheaper. In some cases, I think even free now. There's a lot of like grants and stuff you can get for it, and like at least that's a starting point. Get stupid like you can get the generic classes out of the way. You can also see if you like it, whatever.
And
You can
generally
try
they
things
have
out.
better professors.
Sometimes, yeah. Depends on what it is.
Dude, every class I've taken at community college has had much better professors because the ones in these name brand colleges, they get so comfortable there, they don't even care. Like,
Well, some of them are there to research. They're not even there to teach. So it's like teaching is secondary when that should be like technically what they're paid for.
mhm,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. But I think it should be noted that, while we're knocking college, education is exceptionally important.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the other funny thing. We both love learning and value learning a ton. And I think it's just like you also have to look at the situation and look at the reality of the world you're in, right? And realize that like there's so many ways to learn now. Like when we went to college, you didn't even have really, there wasn't, the internet wasn't like it was now. I still had to go to the library for books, I remember. And like, you don't even barely have to do that now, right? I mean, like, it's crazy.
Dude,
So, like,
writing papers is so much easier because
oh my God.
you literally just search what you're looking for on Google, pull the
Yeah.
first few articles, and there are your references.
Or just put the prompt in Chat GPT and call it a day.
Right?
But yeah, but like it's crazy, dude. There's so much more out there that like I think that's the other thing. You have to realize the options are way more numerous now, I think, to learn.
Mhm.
It's tough.
So
Yeah.
if you could start over, like let's say that you're in your third year of high school,
Knowing what I
what
know
would you do?
now,
Or fourth year, yeah, or fifth year for those real heroes out there.
taking their time. Huh.
Yeah.
If I
What
could
would
do it
you?
over, I probably would not. Honestly, I probably would not go. I probably would do what I did in college. I would do more as a hobby because I still like it. And I would probably focus on doing like I would do degrees, certifications and stuff online for probably technology and just do that if I did it
Mm,
over again.
hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
even
agree with you
if we're
100%.
going back to that time, if they didn't exist, I would have found like online programs that were cheaper and done it that way. Just because like long term, I wouldn't have had the debt, I wouldn't have had that struggle, and like change things.
Yeah. If we could go back even a little bit more, I would actually go to a trade school. And
Yeah.
I would want to learn like auto mechanics, but I know they don't get paid that well. So I would actually probably learn electronics, be an electrician, because
Hmm.
they get paid crazy well, and you learn everything necessary for digital electronics. And
Yeah.
then on my own, teach myself coding. That's probably what I would do.
Well, that's the other thing. I remember we had a trade high school by us,
Mhm.
but didn't go to it. So like, yeah,
Dude, I contemplated going there. I went for like the whatever
like orientation
the
open house
yeah
type thing.
orientation day, but it wasn't like the name brand school, and it
No,
was the same thing. It was the same thing with like going to a name brand university or going to community college. I was like, oh, I'll be judged if I go there, and of
your
course I
parents looked
cared
at
a
you
lot
like a
more back then.
frown. Like,
Yeah, exactly,
well, this is the
exactly.
problem. I think this is the other issue, right? It's like when you're that young, you are really susceptible to how other people think about you. It gets easier as you get older because you just don't care as much. I mean, I think at least I don't. I think a lot of people probably realize that as they get older, right? But like
Yeah,
when you're young, you do worry a lot. So like if your parents are really invested in you doing a certain track, like you feel like you need to or have to, like there's an obligation, but you don't.
yeah, yeah.
You don't.
And then and then there's also the person who's like, but what I need to follow my passion. I need to follow my dreams. I've always dreamed of going to this Ivy League university my whole life, and I love art history. So I need to go pay $100,000 a year to learn art history. And it's like, that's probably the worst life decision you could ever make. You need to get a job that'll support you, and
Yeah.
then you can do whatever you want. Follow your passions in your spare time.
Well, that's the other thing though, is like, people forget that like your passion can be a big part of your life and be not necessarily the main thing that you're doing for income. Because it can always become valuable later. It can always become a valuable skill later that you use, or you find a way to leverage it to make more money later, or to do something, or maybe you figure out how to change into that career later. But like, at least initially, yeah, do it
Yeah,
as an aside.
dude, you learn programming 5 years out from learning. You're making $200,000 a year if you're working full time. You can work half time, make 100,000 a year, and then you can spend all your free time doing art history.
Yeah, right. I mean, and then you can start a YouTube channel. You can do all kinds of things, and like, who knows? You never
Hmm.
know what'll happen. It is
Yeah.
funny. That's
Hmm.
the thing I think that's crazy now is there are so many more options. Like, granted, like the options we had were slimmer because of the time, but I think this is also why I think more people like the student debt has gotten to the point where I think it's over like it's well over 2 trillion now. I know it is, which is insane if you think about that. Just
Hmm.
in the US, like $2 trillion is a lot. So the student debt's gotten so high, and I think people are starting to realize like these degrees are not as valuable as they used to be. Like when they can require a college degree for a manager at like whatever store, like that they're devalued.
Hmm. So I heard these college kids talking at a Starbucks, and one was talking to the other like, "What do you want to do?" And then the guy's like, "Oh, I think I really want to do like be like an entrepreneur or an influencer." And I'm like, "Okay, cool, fine, that's great. A lot of people want to do that. Cool. Do you need a college degree in entrepreneurship or being social media?
No.
Absolutely not. The best way that you could be those two things is go out there and do it. Fail a
Yeah.
whole bunch, mess up a whole bunch. Don't waste your money on school, but just put in all your time and effort into building a business and being an influencer."
Well, if those are two things you really want to do, they both are egregiously time consuming and hard, especially early on. So if that's what you want to do, you'd be way better off taking out a small loan and starting a business.
And there's nothing you'll learn from a
Yeah.
brick and mortar
No.
university.
No, because the real world's they don't like that's the other funny thing is like, dude, I remember, okay, to give you a concrete example. Like my ex was she was a scientist. She worked in she worked for big pharma. Now, I knew a lot of academics who were scientists because I obviously worked at a university, but they work in a university, so they don't know one what the hiring process is like. They don't know what the actual practical world is like in that industry because they're not part of it. So like they actually asked me to have her come in to talk to their students about like the hiring process and stuff because it changes so frequently. So it's like they knew that they can't prepare the kids for this because they're not part of that world. So it's like if
Mm-hmm.
that's what you want to do, like now, yeah, science you need the background, of course, but like if you want to be an entrepreneur or something, the college isn't going to offer you anything. They're not in that world. So just go be in that world and figure it out.
And it's crazy with like entrepreneurship and influencership because it's not like you can learn it and then go do it. Like learning it is in doing it.
Yeah,
The only way you learn it is by failing. And
yeah.
so yeah.
Well, and
Hmm.
the truth is too, that's the other thing that's terrible about college is it costs so much. It doesn't give you a chance to really try things. And then, you're really committed to picking one path and doing it. Otherwise, it's gonna cost more, whatever. So it really pressures you into choosing one thing too, and not really kind of like trying things out, which is the other problem, I think. Which is why, like, I mean, I think a good option for anybody who doesn't know is just try out some online like free programs and stuff to figure out what you like first. Because like at least do that, at the very least. Because then if you know you're gonna like it, at least you'll do better and you'll be more engaged. Because that's the
Hmm.
worst thing. Like I think, I see people all the time trying to change their majors late because they realize they hate it. And it's like, you're gonna tack on at least another year. It's another like 40 grand, It's like, do you really want that?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would
So
say
anyways,
too.
I think
Oh,
oh yeah.
I was gonna say the other downside about it too is a lot of these degrees too, like you need the graduate degree to make it valuable. And people need to realize that too. Like, which because that's another,
If you can even make it valuable.
yeah, yeah, if you even can, that's the other issue.
Because here's the thing. Like the world is becoming more and more globalized. The
Yeah,
workforce is more and more globalized. America is the only place where you have to go into debt $200,000-300,000 to get this education. Everywhere else, they get it for $10,000
Or it's
or
free.
less. Yeah,
Yeah.
or less. So
Yeah.
like these are the people that you're competing against in the marketplace. So when you get out and you're competing for jobs, you're going to want this super high salary because you have $2,000 a month you have to pay in debt. They don't. Not
Yeah.
to mention they're living in a country where living expenses are a lot lower. And since everything can be done remotely, guess what? They'll take a much lower job or much lower pay and they'll get hired first.
Yeah.
So going to college and taking out debt can be a huge mistake.
Yeah. It can be really bad. It can. And you do. It
Mm-hmm.
saddles you with crazy payments every month. They're like a house payment or more. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is interesting too, though, because I think like that's the other side of it. It's global now. Like you have to think that way. And like you have to ask yourself, is this really worth it and worth my time? Because it's also 4 years too. It's also another set of time that's out of your life of doing other things that you could be doing and trying.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
Mm-hmm.
it's how it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think in a nutshell, our answer was no, right?
Yeah. Right?
Should
No.
you go to college? No. Yeah,
Yeah, you shouldn't,
absolutely.
right?
Hmm.
Should just
Yeah,
say
so
nope.
yeah. So, but anyway, obviously that's just our opinion. And I mean, what do we know? We have the combined between us, we only have like 40 years in university.
I know, right? We have enough of it that
Crazy,
that's all that matters.
crazy. All right. So if you did enjoy it, make sure to like, share, subscribe. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. Check us out on the podcasting platforms and wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Randy.